Hello, one and all, and welcome to the Cory Baker Show, where I look to give you the view from the ground here in Los Angeles into the film industry. This is our second episode being shared on YouTube and the podcast feeds. Thank you so much for joining me. I wanted to do something a little bit different today. Since clearly I am a podcast guy, I thought I would run through the shows that are in my filmmaking podcast feeds and give you a sense of the type of things that could be beneficial moving forward in a filmmaking career, no matter where you are in your journey. Because, fun fact, not everyone listens to podcasts. So there could be someone out there who has been in the industry for years, sees this on YouTube, and decides to subscribe to their first podcast. That person and the person who decided to write their script today are all included, and I think that's just a wonderful thing. I'm going to split it up into three sections: news, reviews, and insight. If you find any of these helpful, please let me know, and if you have any you suggest, please comment as well. But let's get right to the list. To me, if I had to dispel all of the information that I get about the industry and point to one primary source, more often than not, it's The Town. Matt Bellany has been a constant in the world of Hollywood and has been a contributor on the business for as long as I've been listening. Multiple times a week, you get episodes with important players, entertainment, journalists, and other newsmakers discussing the business of the week. His company, Puck News, has become a real important media company in Hollywood in a very short order, and this podcast honestly feels like the unofficial digest of Hollywood each and every week. The one thing that I would warn you, newer filmmakers, is that Matt nor anyone else in his show slows down or explains things. They are often talking about things that most people in Hollywood already know about, so it's best for people with a couple of years in the industry. That being said, I think one of the best ways to learn anything is to hear people talking about it and to start picking up the jargon via osmosis. But if you are not used to business or contracts or something like that, they will not slow down for you. All that being said, the show is a must listen. Before The Town, there was this podcast, The Business. I have been listening to this show for a long time, and it's the first place that I became aware of Matt Bellany, who hosts The Town podcast. Kim Masters is the host of this show, a previous head at The Hollywood Reporter. It starts with a recap of the news called The Banter, before going into an interview of the week, and gives you a short, concise wrap-up at the end of each week. I've listened to Strictly Business Feed for a long time, but I wouldn't necessarily say it was a must listen. But recently they launched a daily variety show in this feed, and that has been great for the whole show. Cynthia Littleton is the co-editor-in-chief of Variety and brings more opportunities to talk to journalists about their news coverage. A great addition to the news space of filmmaking podcast. Better Call Paul features Paul Sarker and Mesh Lakhani and features more of the legal side of entertainment. I put it here because they run the show in a news of the week format, but the legal insight is really good, and I like the rapport between the two of them. My go-to when it comes to reviews, The Big Picture definitely touches on news in a more conversational form, but it's really the reviews and the interviews that I think make the show worth the download. Sean and Amanda are joined by various Ringer personalities and talk about all you need to know, from weekly releases to a big focus on award season. I feel like it speaks to the horse race feeling of Hollywood without being too stock up, stock down. I have listened to Film Spotting for a long time, and I'm pretty sure it predates my first iPod. It feels like the best combination of major new releases and indie fare. And they have great end-of-year lists with friends like Michael Phillips and others. And the Massacre Theater segments have always been fun for me and will never stop being fun for me. Yet another Ringer podcast, and not traditionally a review format, the rewatchables mixes and matches the contributors on each episode, but a lot of great voices talking about movies from the past. What I like about this in particular is it focuses heavily on what makes a movie enjoyable and memorable. And I think at the heart of all of us, what we think of when we want to make a picture is to make it enjoyable and memorable. Not every movie will be a big box office success, but you can certainly become a rewatchable. Script Notes was a show I caught within the first 5 episodes and have been a priority listen ever since. John and Craig really have helped countless screenwriters, myself included, because the show is great at not only talking about actionable advice concerning the act of writing, but the business as a whole. Of all these listed, this is the most essential to me. And a lot is how I grew up along with the show. I was in film school when they did their first live show. And the day of the show, I was filming on the backlot of Universal. I was trying to balance appreciating the experience and working on my craft to immediately racing to Hollywood to meet John and Craig. And those two things happening in one day felt like a taste of how great this business could be. On the side of John and Craig, it's so amazing that Craig was thought of as like the guy who co-wrote Scary Movie and The Hangover in the beginning. Like almost like bleh. And I remember when his movie Identity Thief was released, and he talked about how hard it was to hear all the negative reviews on the show. And now he's on the top of the world with Chernobyl and The Last of Us. No one could have ever seen that then. And we collectively got to watch it in real time, which is just so cool. When it comes to the history of Hollywood, I love You Must Remember This. Karina Longworth has a great storytelling style and puts together really well-researched stories with engaging scripts. The show usually does seasons going over a particular theme, the most recent being The Old Man Is Still Alive, talking about the final movies and years of Golden Age directors as they age into a changing Hollywood. It has been fantastic. I get so excited when a new season drops, and the only problem is that I often fall behind and then look for a long travel day to binge through them. Needless to say, if you appreciate Hollywood and history like I do, it is a must download. Stop doing shots if you're doing a shot every time I said I'm a longtime fan of someone, but I'm a longtime fan of Elvis Mitchell and his podcast, The Treatment, from the good people at KCRW. As a well-respected interviewer for places like Esquire, he has a great way of weaving a thought-provoking conversation while keeping the pace and the humor. I feel like I haven't really heard the person interviewed until I heard them in conversation with his smooth voice. This one is not required listening, but seeing as it will be ending soon, I thought I would give On the Page a spot here and suggest you look through the back catalog for interesting episodes. This was another podcast I found early, and I just appreciated the approach taken by host Pilar Alessandra. She had written a few books on screenwriting that I enjoyed, and the episode she did previewing the Oscar writing nominees was always a big highlight. The Director's Cut is not so much a podcast, but actually recordings from screenings at the DGA Theater with the director of the movie and another director moderating the discussion. It's great forum to hear what directors feel about the work in front of aspiring directors. Also, the annual roundtable episodes come Oscar time are must hear because it often features all 5 Best Director nominees. The Location Sound podcast is interesting to me because a large part of what I do in the industry is location sound. And once you find something that you specialize in, I'm sure you will be able to find a podcast that talks about grip or transpo or wardrobe. This one in particular is very nice because Michael the Sound Guy often asks a lot of the same questions. So you feel like you can get a real good understanding of what makes everyone unique and special. A must for the sound mixers among us. When I first started working with my boom op, Raphael, he was very green in the industry, and we would drive to set listening to this podcast. And I like to think it really set him up for success as he was getting started. I just talk department-specific podcasts, but I really appreciate what the Team Deakins podcast does. Roger Deakins is one of the most beloved and respected cinematographers around, and the show he does with his wife James is really fascinating because he brings in people from every job on set and talks with them about the craft. A word of warning to the newbies, they can be very heavy on the jargon. So it could be hard to follow if you haven't spent at least a little bit of time on set. My last suggestion for you is to find one of the many podcasts that goes episode by episode with one of your favorite shows, especially if it has a heavy contributions from the people who were on or made the shows. I really enjoyed the West Wing Weekly. I thought it was exceptionally well done, and all the major players appeared on the show constantly. But one of the best ways to learn how to do it is to listen to the stories of the people who made it. And they will fill you in on all the details, all the happy accidents that led to the show that you love so much. I know I just threw a ton of podcasts your way, but this is barely scratching the surface of what is out there. So if there is anything you think I missed, please let me know. in the comments or on social media, and maybe we'll make a part 2 with contributions from all of you. There are probably millions of filmmaking podcasts out there, and I should know as I am one of them. So if you enjoyed this, please, a subscription would be lovely. Thank you so much for tuning in. I took off Labor Day last week, but I'm back on schedule with you here moving forward. Have a great week, everybody, and I'll talk with you again real soon. Bye.